Welcome to the On the Spot podcast, where we talk to people from all walks of life and recovery, brought to you by your favorite sober lounge, probably the only sober lounge. I mean, I don't know. I really didn't do research into it, but it's called The Spot. It's on 43rd and Northern in Phoenix, where they host a bunch of meetings every day. They cultivate a positive environment of recovery, and they encourage sponsorship and fellowship and the 12 steps. It's also a nonprofit that does a lot of good for a lot of people inside and outside of the rooms. So this is from what I know of her, an amazing lady who's experienced loss beyond words, yet manages still to be a great mom, wife, sponsor, and somehow got her master's degree in nursing through it all. This is Elisa. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, excellent. Well, how are you today? And thank you for taking the time out of your super busy life to do this.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I am doing okay today. It was one of those interesting mornings where I try to be a good stay within my schedule or my creature comforts, and that usually looks like going to the gym in the morning. And when I got home it was like everything cracked off with work. We had a couple of call outs, and so I am gym, post gym and work. I worked my ass off all day to cover, but I'm very excited to do this, and I'm super, super thankful that you invited me.
And it's awesome that those are the things that we get to do today, you know? So let's touch on the nursing thing real quick. So is this something you did before or after you found the rooms of recovery?
Both. So I've been a practicing bedside nurse for about 21 years here in the Valley. I started off being a cancer oncology nurse. So I gave chemotherapy in the hospital, taking care of patients that were with active cancer diagnoses. And then I moved over to the clinic side of things, and I worked night shift. And so it was really easy for me to be able to hide my ism, right? Because I'd get off shift at 8 o'clock in the morning, nobody's around, and a bottle of wine was my friend. And so yeah, man, that was the way I got down. By the grace of God, I got arrested on a weekend partying it up, because if you worked hard, you got to party hard. That was the motto in my house growing up. And this Arizona State Board of Nursing doesn't really take well to people having felonies. And so I entered into the Can Do program with Arizona State Board of Nursing, and I was able to maintain my nursing degree past that. Since I've gotten sober, I've learned some pretty fundamental things. And so I've actually climbed the ladder for leadership. Right now, I'm a regional clinical operations director and a compliance lead for my company. So what that really means is that I get to run teams to take care of patients. So I support all of our nurses, medical assistants, frontline staff, and nurse practitioners. So yeah, that's kind of the full circle of life for me as far as my career.
That is incredible. And from what it sounds like to me, and I could be completely off, it sounds like you do like it's like almost like HR for nurses. Like it's almost like you're like the HR department for all of the nurses, kind of.
Yeah, I'm definitely the manager. I would say that, and I think my VP would say it, I'm her right hand. So my executive vice president trusts me to make decisions for our team, which is a huge honor, right? Like I'm dealing with a multitude of lives and their livelihoods and their families. And so people have told me, and I believe them, that I'm really good at building team and building teamwork ability, or being able to put together a group of people and help them to work well together so that we can be successful. I know for a fact that that is because of this program. Like I'll spit recovery jargon in operations meetings, and people are like, "Wow, you're so insightful. You're such an old soul." And I'm like, "No, I'm just a recovering alcoholic." So, but yeah.
It's interesting to me. How did you go from being, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't overnight, and that's kind of the point I want to get across, because a lot of newcomers will hear this and be like, that's what I want, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes several years to go from being a felon to being the head of a nursing department. That takes years and years of work. It doesn't happen overnight. And like, I think a lot of people in early recovery, I know myself included, got discouraged with like my job situation or my financial situation. But like the more I kept at it, the more it got better, sometimes it got worse, but usually, in the end, if you keep working at it, it'll get better. So, what did that journey look like for you?
Long, right? Like you said, painful, long suffering, lots of patience, lots of peace, no matter what was happening around me. I could sit here and lie and say that it's been an easy breezy, nice and squeezy kind of a transition, but that's so far from the truth. The uncertainty, the not even knowing what's the right next step. They always talk in the rooms like, "Oh, I just did the next right thing, the next right thing." Well, sometimes what does that look like, right? Like I don't always know. I think that God sounds like me in my head. I think that God sounds like my disease in my head, right? Like, how do you know? I can tell you that yes, it takes time, it takes dedication and commitment, and sometimes doing the same things that you've been do, even though you don't understand the reason behind them. And that's with recovery and with work, right? More often than not, I found myself doing the job of a different title because I knew how to do it, but not getting paid to do that. And, there were times that I was pretty salty about it, right? Like, I'm doing the job of 5 or 6 people. I should be getting paid. I should. The second I started shitting all over myself, I shut down at work and I wasn't successful. But man, I'm going to tell you, like, I've heard in the rooms a lot. Oh, I just put my sights on the program and everything else falls into place. And I know that that sounds stupid. I know it sounds stupid, but boy, does that ever produce so much. Like, I'm 11 years sober, and I just recently had a situation where I almost pulled the house of cards down over my head because I was shitting all over the place, right? I was analyzing the personalities around me and how come this and why that. And God had to sit me down and say, I am God, you are not. But I can say that the honesty, the open-mindedness and the willingness was huge because I would have never started the journey for leadership. I was comfortable where I was. When I got sober, I was a chairside nurse. I knew my role. I was the resource person for my team. People were like, "Hey, I can't get this IV. Can you help?" Yeah, I'm in. And to go from that safe little cove to I don't know what the heck I'm doing was super scary. And it's been like that every time I do any kind of transition. But I'm a firm believer that God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. In other
Yeah.
words, if He wants you somewhere, He's going to see you through it. And that has been an absolute reality for me in my professional life and in my personal life.
And I want to bring up one of the points and touch on this. Like when you said, to you, God in your head sounds like you, or
Yeah,
sounds like your addiction, or whatever.
yeah,
And a lot of the times, and I mean, the more you foster a connection with God, I feel like the more his will becomes clear. But at first, sometimes the next right thing is to just do the next thing, make
yeah,
a mistake, and learn from it. I
yeah,
mean, who knows? And maybe sometimes doing the next right thing is just doing the next thing,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And it's crazy, how you said, you didn't understand at first how, going to these meetings and all this stuff and just putting that first would help in the other area of your life. And like, I didn't either. I was like, how the hell is this going to help me pay my rent? But like,
yeah.
what it did is it took me out of myself, and there's no solution in self. So
No,
like, it brought me out of myself long enough for like God to come into my life a little bit and
yeah,
like kind of work in the areas where I wasn't willing to let him.
100%.
But that's awesome. Okay, so how has your role of being a nurse and like you taking care of people all the time, when you first came into recovery, in the rooms of recovery, was it hard for you to go from that role of taking care of other people to letting like women around you take care of you for a little while?
It's still hard. No, it's not as hard as it was, but absolutely. I came into the rooms very much untrusting of other women. I have always thought that I was just a tomboy and my guy friends are my tight net. Um, but like don't get me wrong, I think guys are cool, whatever, but my husband's my best guy friend. He's my best friend for life. He's the one for me. I didn't know, I didn't have that when I first got sober and so like yeah, I had to go to these women meetings and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know." But more so I love that you brought up being a caregiver and then letting people care for you. So uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. I have a tribe that I've been blessed with a couple of women that I trust, and I can be so flagrantly obnoxious and just a mess, and not worry that it's helped me be more authentically who I am no matter where I'm at. And that's in the rooms, that's on social media, unfortunately. But like that's everywhere. Like I get to just be authentically me. I no longer need to shrink who I am. That's always what I've done. Is to try to shrink who I am. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to cause anybody to feel a sort of way because of my presence. And so going into the rooms, into women's rooms, having women surround you when you're feeling ick, like you're supposed to be fully transparent. And thank God I was able to. I don't know how, honestly. Like I think I saw how others did, and then I started to trust. And it was because of that loving support and that guidance that like I'm here today, but difficult for sure. I always wonder, like, how is it for guys? You guys seem sometimes to be like super, I don't know. I know bromances definitely occur and you guys are all smushy gushy, but like, man, y'all are cutthroat sometimes when you,
So
anyway.
the people that I choose to hang around, and like this is the thing. Like in early recovery, I mean, I looked up to the dudes who had time and noticed that they were just brazenly honest
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
disregard for whatever.
Feelings.
But I've also noticed that in the rooms that guys tend to get their feelings hurt more often than girls do. They just don't talk about it. And like, it's absolutely possible in this program. And this is what I look for when I'm around somebody or somebody that I look to in the program and I look up to. I look for somebody who's honest, but also compassionate. It's possible to be honest and have compassionate like nature to you as well. So yeah, I mean, and it's all about like surrounding yourself with the right people that will like, not coddle you, but take care of you when you really need it, support you when you need it, but also tell you when you're fucking up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that to that end, there is such a craft in being able to say the truth in love, right? Because if I just say the truth all the time without love, then I'm a clanging cymbal. But if I only say love, then I could be potentially loving somebody to death, right? Like we've heard that in the rooms. And so I've really been blessed to be around women and men that have shared the truth in love, loving kindness that helps really form and guide me on how to be that type of sponsor, right? Like the women I get to sponsor, the women that God brought into my life are the bright spot, And half my girls will tell you that I'm a real bitch. The other half will tell you that I'm just so much fun. And it kind of depends on what stage in their steps they are.
It's so weird because like my sponsor is like notoriously known for like giving people really long lectures and like telling them where they're fucking up. And like, I've never gotten one of those from him. Like, and like, it's because I call him about everything. You know what I'm saying? And I take advice. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. When I got sober, I'd like got a sponsor and called him. I worked the steps and I wasn't a pussy. I just told him everything and I fucking was honest because I had nothing else to hide. And like, as a result of that, like,
Here you are.
I mean, I really looked up to his recovery. And like, as a result of that, I feel like I got to experience a little of that knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Because I was open to it. Well, how do you feel like being a nurse has helped you become a better sponsor or vice versa?
Know that being a nurse really did anything. I know that being a nurse gave me a lot of excuses and reasons to do what I did. I think I've done some trauma therapy, right? And because as you peel back the onion, you start to realize that, like, oh, maybe this needs to be looked at. And I know the book talks about outside help, and thank God for that. But in doing some trauma therapy, I've realized there are reasons why nursing was such an enticing venture for me. Based off of my childhood and the way that I was brought up, or the things that occurred and happened to me, made me want to inherently be a caregiver. And so nursing just made sense. I remember like going to freshman day or whatever, and I was like, I'm going to be a teacher. And my mom's like, how are you going to pay your bills? No offense to any teachers out there, but like that was the joke. And so I was like, oh, I guess you're right. I'll be a nurse. And so it was very much not like I don't know, but it's so interesting. You can't connect dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward, right? And I see how like God's always been there, pointing and guiding and gently nudging and being the sound reason, even though I didn't know. I think that what's helped me become an effective sponsor, a solid friend, a supportive sister, a sturdy spouse, a great mother has been recovery. The principles in recovery are things that are not new to me because those are things you learn in nursing school, as crazy as that sounds. But like the honesty, the willingness to try certain things, like there's a lot of principles in nursing school that are found in recovery. All this to say, I really think that what's actually helped me become better in life has been learning how to be a leader. And I wasn't a leader until I got sober and I took that step. And I think it was a culmination of getting sober, doing the steps, stepping out at work and putting my hat in for, leadership position. And man, like that all happened right around the same time. And so I know that that's really touched my whole life. If that makes sense, like it's a symbiotic relationship. It's leadership, but it's also the steps and being a servant leader and all of that.
And I mean, and shout out to the nurses out there. They deal with so much trauma all the
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
so I could see how if you were predisposed to being an addict, like if you were predisposed with the disease of alcoholism and like you were going through all this traumatic crap all the time, that it would be super easy to slip into those ways.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, like my aunt, for example, she's a nurse. She's also an alcoholic.
yeah.
She's not sober, but I mean, well, she lost her nursing license actually, but she used to deal with like the pediatric stuff, like the kids, and like she was just like, I mean, a mess.
Dude,
So I can only imagine what that's like. That's got to be one of the most difficult things. I mean, even in early recovery, how were you able to deal with all that stuff and still stay grounded?
that was hard. That was hard. Like, God, you bring up memories. I remember just before getting sober, like taking care of an actively dying patient in the beginning of my shift. Halfway through, they passed. And then I have to come out of their room for my 4 other patients that are assigned and act like nothing happened. You gotta pull up your bootstraps and keep going because you have 4 other people, you have your assignment, and so somebody passes away and you have to keep your composure, you have to keep that poker face. I think that's why I was so good at being a chameleon, just blending in with what was around me. I remember one time we had a young kid who coded, and I'm in there doing, chest compressions, and he had just gotten married, his wife, was pregnant, and he passed away, and here she comes crying down the hall, and I have to be the one to tell her, like, "I'm so sorry." I wasn't sober then, but I was a good, loving human. Early on in my sobriety, reconciling how to care for people in some like, I worked oncology forever, so it was never the it wasn't always devastating, but it wasn't always a positive, end of the story, depending on how you look at it, right? And so there were plenty of times where, um, I would want to drink about it, because that was my solution before I found sobriety. At the job I had, you drink like I drank, and, I didn't have that anymore, and I remember, like you said, just whatever my sponsor said to do, I did. So, I got in the center. I never got in the center of the pack. I was forced there from day 1. Thank God. Like, service was my second name. And so I think that being able to go somewhere and just be without my thoughts or not alone with my thoughts really helped prevent me from picking up.
So all right, to kind of jump a little bit, you have like 73 kids, right?
Yeah.
Or five, yeah.
73 and a half.
I mean, they're all different ages, all different stages of life. How do you like effectively manage your time with
You don't.
your career, being a mom, a wife, and still find time for recovery? You just do it, right? You can't.
I have learned that something is always going to take a backseat, period. Sometimes it's my recovery. Sometimes it's my relationship with my husband. Sometimes it's work. Sometimes it's kids. Sometimes, most of the time, it's myself. I think any mom who has a similar setup or any dad really is going to feel the pressure to get everything right 100%, right? You've the work life balance bullshit. There is no such thing. And I think those of us that are aware of the fact that we cannot be 100% of everything every day are able to say that and step prayer, right? Like, okay, God, you guide my thoughts, you guide my day. You tell me what to focus on and I'll be obedient and follow. And I'm telling you, man, like it's whack-a-mole, right? So it's either a kid at home getting sick or I've got drama from school reporting home for my 8-year-old. Last week, he sent an email to his teacher saying, "You're bossy and rude," because she got mad at his bestie. I'm like, "Bro, you are bullying your teacher via email and you're 8." Anyway, so but like work was totally good. Recovery was solid. You know what I mean? In my relationship, we had a date. Like it be like that sometimes. And so I have to learn that I don't need to be 100% every time. I'm a human. I have limitations. And so I think that I know recovery's helped me with that. But yeah, I really do have kids spread all across the entire development stages, like 19-year-old about to get married, probably make me a grandma soon. 16-year-old just got her first job. She's learning how to drive, super cool. My 8-year-old wants to be a jujitsu master soon, and he's spicy and he's neurospicy and definitely just like his father. Um, and then we have a son who looks down on us from heaven, and then we have a surprise baby, a 4-year-old who is spicy, 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 does not like to eat anything I give him, but has this beautiful personality. So 4 to 19, like we busy.
I mean, I just wanna say how sorry I'm for your loss.
Thank you.
I can't even begin to imagine how hard that was for you. A lot of people would have used that as an excuse to relapse. Instead, you used it to foster a greater connection with your higher power and strengthen your faith. What did that look like for you?
I
How did that
mean,
happen?
right? How did that happen? I remember when I got sober, I had my 2 daughters. They're from a previous marriage, so my oldest. And I remember telling my sponsor, I will drink if one of these kids dies or gets kidnapped. Like I knew that was always a big intrusive thought, big fear of mine. And I said it out loud. Back in 2019, life couldn't have been sweeter. My husband and I had been married for a little bit. We had a kiddo, our first son, and we were planning his brother or sister, whichever. We're super involved in service, super plugged into our church, like all these things. And I get pregnant and like it's amazing, you know? I was 15 weeks pregnant and I had to take one of those lab tests because I was older and ran some risks of like genetic disease or predisposed things. So I get a phone call after hours from my OBGYN who was like my friend. We worked at the same hospital together. And she said, "Hey, we got to talk." And I'm like, "What's up?" And she said, Your labs came back and there's a very high probability of trisomy 18." And it didn't register. Like I'm not a pediatric nurse, I'm not an OBGYN nurse. But I was like, Down syndrome, like we can roll with that. You know what I mean? That's fine. She's like, "No, this is actually way worse than that. It's not compatible with life." So I say that because from 15 weeks until he was born, that was my, I think, real true experience of a first step experience. I was powerless. Right. And thank God for this program because if I didn't have any kind of solid foundation, I would have been unmanageable trying to control things. There were offers of different ways to confirm or deny and, take care of and da da da. And I didn't elect to go that direction. What was right for me in my heart was to just be patient and to wait and see. Um, I remember being face down, crying out to God, but also thinking to myself, like, okay, I'm 5 years sober at this point. I've had a lot of blessings. I've dodged a lot of bullets. And I kind of conceded myself to like, okay, God, my cup's full. I get it. It's okay. This is like this is my crappy card of my deck. But all the while, looking back on it now, like the feeling of being held, the feeling of being closely connected to my higher power, being able to apply the things that I've learned, like the prayer and the pause. And it wasn't just me, it was my whole family that walked it out. You know, my husband is also in this program. We met in recovery. And he kept bringing up how, divorce is sometimes what happens when people lose a child. And this was before we had lost our son. I think we prepared for that. I think we prayed to God to help avoid that. But I'll tell you, a huge part of why I think I'm still drawing sober breath at this moment was what happened the night that our son passed. He was at home with us on hospice, 2 weeks old, started having breathing issues. And I had told my OB, like, if this child passes away, it'll be in my arms or it'll be in my womb. Like, he was never supposed to make it to birth. He was never supposed to make it past birth. And here he is, 2 weeks old, little finger. And so we're at home with hospice, and it comes to pass. I'm holding our son. He took his last breath, and my husband was holding me. And I'm a nurse. I've held people's hands when they transition. I've been the nurse to hold the family, and here I am holding my child. And my husband is holding me, and his reaction was like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "It happened. What we've been preparing for happened." Um, and the first thing he said was, "I need a bottle." And he got up and he went out on our back patio. And I didn't think, I just moved. And I called one person. I called his sponsor. And within, I don't know, 15 minutes, I had 30 people at my house. It was the middle of COVID. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and they stayed with us until the morning. That part in the book that talks about a fellowship will crop up around you. That is one thing we don't want you to miss, is so true and real in my life. Um, and slowly but surely after that moment, God gave me opportunity to minister and to talk to give my testimony to other women who were walking almost similar scenarios with their unborn or brand new babies, which was bizarre, right? Like, I don't know how God works, but I know he works. I don't think he ever asked us to understand him. I think he asked us to trust him, and thank God I was able to do that because I didn't really have any other cards to play. But yeah, absolute miracle. The fact that my husband and I didn't do what we probably could have done without any kind of judgment from anybody that loved us, right? Like, yeah, it would have been unfortunate, but the death of a child is something that I don't think anybody can really prepare for. The fact that I'm able to talk about it without becoming a pile of broken heart all over the place is new for me. Um, in a month, it'll be that 6-year anniversary of his birth and his death 2 weeks later. And I can finally not avoid talking about it, not be afraid. Um, because I look back on my Facebook post like right around this season, right around this time, and it reminds me how publicly I walked this out for everybody to see, and like how absolutely devastated I was even before it happened, like how heartbroken I was and how much I shared that. I think it's pretty cool what God has been able to do with me and with our family.
Again, I'm so sorry for your loss, but I do think it's amazing that God's put you in a position today to be able to help other people through similar things. And that just goes to show like how good natured you are. And I mean, it is directly from the third step too, where it says, the only reason I'm able to get through these things is to just show other people how powerful God really
Hmm.
is, you know? And
Yeah.
as a result of that, to show people that it's possible,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's incredible that you're doing that.
Thank you.
So so yeah, I kind of want to get into your story a little bit, if that's cool. If you
Yep.
want to just give us like the movie trailer version, that would be great.
The movie trailer version. God. I don't know. It's not it honestly the what happened or what it was like and what happened are no different, right? Um, what it was like, I can't tell you the reason that I am an alcoholic. I don't think it was from my upbringing. I don't think it was for lack of this or too much of that or whatever. When I was young, I saw what I saw. And that was party and family. And those two were always interconnected. I grew up on like 20th Street, sorry, 20th Street in Garfield, pretty rough neighborhood. I'm the whitest of my bunch. My whole family is super Mexican, Hispanic. And My dad is from the Netherlands. That's where I get my creamy from. But growing up, I never really felt like I fit. And then fast forward to high school, I was a little bit heavier in this program. I came to find that food was my first addiction, and I didn't even know it. I was 380 pounds when I was in high school, had gastric bypass surgery to make my outsides match what I thought my insides felt like. And then apparently, gastric bypass can kind of really help you with your alcoholism because you take your stomach and you make it super small and your digestion is like really quick. So my party trick would be half a shot and I'm blacked out. And I loved that feeling and I chased it. I chased that feeling. But I mean, I don't know, my why. I don't know what it is. I do feel there was this guy that used to say in meetings, "We are the chosen ones." And I was like, "Oh, you arrogant ass," you know? Until I understood and felt it, like, yeah, I really think that I was selected on purpose to prevent a life's worth of suffering and chaos, and I was able to reconnect with God. So, what happened was I got blacked out because I love to time travel, took home a cab, didn't have the money to pay for it, cab fare was grouchy about that, called the cops, and allegedly, I was never convicted. Just kidding. I I decided to get lippy and disrespectful with the police officers, and I accidentally hit one of them with my screen door. So they don't like that. It's not. Don't do that. Um, they really don't like that. And so I was facing a felony 5 charge for aggravated assault on a police officer. Whoops. And then I decided to use my entire body weight against 2 of them as they drugged me from my front door to their patrol car. That's also a felony. Resisting arrest, apparently. It's a felony 6. When I got to jail, I guess I resisted even more, and they thought I was a psych case and put me in isolation. So I came to in this, like, little box. Um and this I think the jail psych came down and she's like, "What meds are you on?" I'm like, "Meds? I'm not on I'm a nurse. What are you talking about? I just got drunk. No big deal, little Jose." So reading all of this, because I don't remember hardly any of it, reading it all in my transcript, I was like, "Whew, that's not a good look." Anyway, fast forward, like I'm facing 2 felony charges, I'm potentially losing my nursing license. I had my own home. I shared custody of my 2 daughters. My ex-husband was done with it. Like he picked me up on a Sunday morning downtown at Sheriff Joe's hotel and he said to me he was dropping me back off at my house, "Don't call me again." I'm like, "Again?" Like he knew before I could admit to myself that this was probably going to continue until I could get it together. But that following Tuesday, I got myself into my first young people AA meeting and haven't stopped. There have been seasons where I've been super lazy, and I have good friends that'll tell you the truth. Yeah, she didn't go to meetings at all. 2020, but whenever the pain starts to boil up, I know where to go. I know what to do. It's a matter of if I'm going to do it or not. Um, my life today is ridiculously blessed. I met my husband at the 2015 Crystal Meth Anonymous convention. Shameless plug. Um, there's another one coming up this year, and I met him at the original pool party. It was love at first sight. Uh, but he's my best friend. He's the last man on earth I wanna fight with, like, fight with him forever. Not that I never wanna fight with him, I, like, wanna always fight with him. That's it. He, he's great. He stepped into the role of bonus dad for my daughters in a way that I don't think anybody, like, should be expected to. I'm lucky enough that they have a dad that loves them and he's extremely supportive and as weird as this sounds, like, me, my current husband, his mother, our kids, my ex-husband, his mother, we all go to the same church together. So, um, I don't know if that's a testament to like how God can heal things. We got divorced, my ex-husband and I, because I drank our marriage to the ground. I was a shell of a woman. I couldn't be a wife. But yet I was able to I was able to do my ninth step with him and make it right and correct my wrongs. Life is good today. Life is so good today. I could tell you about, like, all the really amazing financial things that have happened because those are cool. I could tell you about the future next steps that are gonna occur. Those are great. I could tell you about the respect and the levels of leadership that I have now and the rooms that I get to sit in and decisions I get to make. But at the end of the day, my favorite thing is that I can hear God very clearly. He doesn't sound so much like me in my head. He doesn't sound so much like my disease, so long as I keep in fit spiritual condition, right? Sometimes it's not like that. But um I had a scenario yesterday at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, evening, whatever. And I'm like talking with God in my head. And this is totally insignificant. And I'm not going to go into detail because it's between me and God, but it was one of those like, if you weren't paying attention, you'd miss it kind of deals. But I was definitely paying attention and it was definitely clear and it was so sweet. Those moments are what make the last 11 years of my life truly mean something to me because don't get me wrong, like I'm super grateful for every blessing I have in my life. Um a lot of it is material things, but so much more are the relationships, are the connection with God, the ability to support and love on other people. So, I don't know, life's good.
That's amazing. And, I can relate to a lot of aspects of your story. I mean, that's what I used to call Xanax was a time machine. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I would fucking be like, I kind of like not remembering shit. And I'd take it and I'd wake up hours away from my house or sometimes in like a different state. It's happened. And I definitely the first time I ever got arrested as an adult, it was directly because of my attitude towards the police. Like it wasn't because they could prove I did anything wrong. It's because I was a drunken 19-year-old kid who was just being an asshole.
Yeah.
And like they took me to jail and I was drunk to the point of psychosis. Like I've never experienced meth psychosis, but I've definitely experienced alcohol psychosis.
Yep.
And and I told them, I was going to kill myself and all this other stuff. And I don't remember doing this. And they stripped me naked and put me into a cell. And like, that's where I ended up, you know, the next morning. But yeah, I completely understand that. And it's crazy because, like alcohol was, that was my drug, obviously.
Yeah.
And, for a really long time, like, it was so weird. Like, I knew I was an alcoholic. I knew that I needed help, but like, I just didn't care if that
Yeah.
made sense.
Yeah,
It took
it
like
does. It makes tons of sense.
yeah, and
It's
and,
your
uh
God-given right. Alcohol is not illegal, right?
yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
And like, I've I've been supporting myself financially since I was, like, 15. Like, my dad lost his job, I went to work, I paid bills. Like, who the fuck can tell me anything, you
Yeah.
know? And in my family, that's the way it was. Like, if, you could support yourself, if you had a job, nobody said shit to you? Maybe once in a while they'd be like, you drink a little too much, but I just look right at them and be like, you drink twice as much as me. So like, I don't understand where you're coming from,
Yeah.
you know? So, and that cycle is hard to break, especially when nobody's telling you, like, especially if
Right.
you happen to be like a charismatic, likable drunk, you know, people
Which
have
I
told me
wasn't by
before.
the end, let me just say. I
Me neither.
was, but I was not by the end. It
I
was all
wasn't either.
messy.
By the end, nobody wanted to drink with me. I had
No.
been banned from bars. Like it was a mess.
Yeah.
But at first, people would be like, you're the only person I know with a drinking problem. And it's funny. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like,
You can
so
talk us into anywhere.
100%.
Yeah.
And like, I remember I was like 24 years old and I was very intoxicated and I got hit with a truck. Like I was crossing the street and a truck hit me and the cops were like, well, you had alcohol poisoning. Like your blood alcohol level is like point 0.5 something. You probably should be dead. When the truck hit you, you acted like a wet noodle. And like, because you were so drunk, you didn't break anything in your body. I'm like, so you're telling me I'm an alcohol superhero and it saved my life? That's
Right.
what I heard.
I
I'm going
would
to get
never
drunk
stop.
immediately after I leave here. And they're like, you should probably quit forever.
Yeah.
But, of course I didn't. But yeah, I completely relate with your story. And it's just so amazing to see like, where you were to where you are now. Are you on any do you do any like Do you do any service work today? I know you had mentioned a convention that you met your husband on. Are you a part of that in any way, or like, are you on any boards or?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, when I got sober, it was all like old school big book AA thumpers, right? Like that was my clan. That's what I leaned into. And then a lot of my friends also were like, yes, right? And I was like, am I allowed to go to those meetings? So I started to go hang around a lot of CA meetings, a lot of CMA meetings. My very first retreat ever was a Crystal Meth Anonymous retreat, 12 Step in the Pines. I was too chicken to do any other drug ever. I think I smoked pot maybe twice. One time was in Jamaica, and I think that's completely warranted, right? Uh,
100%.
you're in Jamaica, it's like their religion.
Checks out, you know?
But so all this to say, my whole sobriety up until about a year and a half ago, I had a Crystal Meth Anonymous home group where I was like the treasurer and I was the secretary and I was the chair and blah, blah, blah. And I've done tons of service and tons of like volunteer whatever with Crystal Meth Anonymous. Currently, I still do. I'm actually on the 2026 CMA convention as the hospitality chair. I am the registration chair for the 12 Step in the Pines coming up soon for Crystal Meth Anonymous. I do have an AA home group, and in that home group, I'm the PICPC rep, and that is like the public information collaboration with professional communities. And then I got swim. So like my first meeting, I go and they're like, "Hey, we need a secretary," and I was like, "I'm in." Like I'm a service junkie. I like, um, that's not true. I'm gonna have sponsees watching this going, "You're such a liar." I like to party. Right? And so I found that I party harder and much more it's much more funner with Crystal Meth Anonymous, if I'm being real. AA's cool, don't get me wrong. CA's got some cool parties. They're super bouge. I love it. It's my favorite. But Crystal Meth Anonymous, even though I'm a tweaker who never tweaked, man, they showed me what unconditional love is in these rooms. Like truly, CMA has my heart and I never touched meth. I think alcoholism saved me from my meth addiction. I've heard a lot of my friends say that their meth addiction saved them from their alcoholism. So we get each other, you know. But it's a lot of fun to do stuff like that. I was just on the committee for New Year's Eve, Crystal Meth New Year's Eve event. That was super fun. So yeah, really, what kind of party we throwing and what's our budget is usually my jam.
That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, you guys have the best events. Like they're the most fun, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, I think so. You know, I think when you get 80 to 100 tweakers in the same place drinking coffee that's way too strong, you're bound to have fun. It's not
Yeah.
gonna be there's not gonna be a dull moment there,
No.
you know? And I think that's super cool. All right, so okay, and you said that when you first got sober, it was all AA because you'd only done pot twice. I think that's incredible because you were a nurse, so you were like directly at the source of where you could get like the best drugs.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally. I could
yeah,
have reverted. Oh man. And I was a cancer nurse. So like you got to understand cancer ward, there's incredible pain. We were taking care of sickle cell patients. These guys were getting like IV Dilaudid, IV fentanyl Q hour. And so like watching the news now and looking how much Fenty powder has like hit, like dude, 20 years ago, I was pushing that for patients who were writhing in pain for hours, days even, right? I don't know if that's what caused me to like not touch because I don't know, maybe that was the carrot. I don't know, dude. Like, but when I first got sober with the board, um I had to do 3 random drug screenings every month at my pocket, $180 they made us pay. It's crazy. I was like, when I'm in recovery, I'm asking my friends, like, "Oh, you gotta go pee. Like, how much you gotta pay?" And they're like, $30. Whatever. I was super pissed. Anyway, I was totally getting cheated. But I also had to go to nurse proctored meetings once a week, and we had to pay $10 an hour to our nurse. Yeah, dude. Like the gal that proctored it. And in those meetings, it was all of us. It was alcoholics. It was addicts. It was, it was a whole gamut. And we were honest and we would share about what we did. I think I don't know how I got prevented or saved from going in that direction, but, like, and, when I first got sober, one thing that kinda messed with my head, I didn't think that I had done bad enough yet, right? Like, I battled with my chair. I knew I was bad, but, like, not that bad. Like, I still had my kids. I still had my house. I still had my job. For whatever reason, God saw it fit to allow me to keep these things. I remember talking to my sponsor and I was like, "Dude, I don't know if I belong here." Like, I think maybe I overreacted, right? I don't know how many times I had said that, but she showed me a place in the big book, and there's this page right in the middle of those of the stories in the back, and it says they stopped in time. And I read it, and I was struck through. I was like, okay, so the bottom came up to meet me. Okay, so like if I continued, I would probably be on this path and lose everything. So I'm very lucky for where I'm at. But I'll tell you, it was difficult having a job with money in your account, living alone, like you'd mentioned. Nobody's telling you what to do, how to do. And so for a long time in early sobriety, I was alone. I lived by myself. I made good money. I had the sponsor lady that I called and stuff, and I had my friends at meetings, but like I could have at any point just done what I wanted to do, By the grace of God, I didn't. I I don't even know how. Like I look back on it and I'm like, man, I could have totally gotten away with that. Seriously. But like I think I was 6 months and I moved to sponsee and I was like, hey, I have a room, come live with me. So no, but
Yeah, like that's incredible because I mean I know a lot of people out there can definitely relate to this because I mean I was an alcoholic before I was anything else, and like my relapses used to always start with alcohol and then like they would always lead to the harder stuff, whenever I would try to get sober. The last couple relapses I had, I just went straight for what I wanted to do because I know that that's where it was going anyway and why waste time. But the reason I used to hate opiates and downers and all that stuff, and then I shattered my elbow in a dirt bike accident when I was, like, 23, and, they had me on IV Dilaudid for a few days and then prescribed me all these painkillers, and then when the painkillers ran out, I was, like, in a different state at the time, like, I moved to a different state, and I ran out of painkillers, and I was, like, going through serious withdrawals from
yeah,
them. And my buddy who was, like that I was living with, he was a heroin addict, and I didn't know this, like, because
yeah,
I knew his wife and I knew his kids and I knew whatever, but he was, like, a functioning heroin addict, and he was like, "I cannot have you detoxing in front of my kids, like, you need
yeah,
to do something and get your life together, and so you need to do heroin."
yeah,
How that conversation isn't ridiculous, I to this day don't know. You need to get your
yeah,
life together and do some heroin so you're not, detoxing in front of my children. I'm
yeah,
like, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea," and that's how I got addicted to heroin. And yeah, and I mean, this was back when, like, I mean, they did not regulate opiates at all, hardly, back then.
yeah.
I mean, I'm from Florida, and, like, I remember before I did opiates, I would doctor shop and go to
Yeah.
different places and get prescriptions that I
Script,
wasn't
script, script,
taking and just
script.
sell them. And,
Yeah,
like,
yep.
it was just
Polypharmacy is the term for that. And
yeah,
they got
yeah.
smarter, and then they come up with the, like thankfully, they came up with the dashboards that, you can log in your name and date of birth, and I can see however many scripts you've had for, the month and where you got them from, but no, I totally agree. It's Wild West out there, man.
Yeah, it was crazy for a while. I mean, they've really got a hold on it now, but yeah, it's just amazing to me that you never went that direction. I think it's kinda awesome because you might not be here today if you decided to
Yeah.
go that direction. But yeah, so alright, so I think it's amazing because not a lot of people get to keep their career after they get into recovery, you know?
Yeah.
How was it different being able to I mean, I know that you had to jump through a lot of hoops to keep your career, but how was it different for you being able to keep that career as opposed to having to start all over in early recovery? Was that a blessing or was that something that you wish maybe had started from the ground up?
Man, that is a so good question, right? Because like, knee jerk, I wanna say, "Such a blessing," but I mean, there were times, there were times. I think for the most part, it was a huge, huge blessing though, because what I have found where I am now, I come across people like me all the time, and I'm able to extend the empathy, the compassion, the support, the love, and the guidance on here's where you can grow should you choose. Um, And that's coworkers, that's employees that report to me, that's patients, right? Like what a cool spot God kept me at, knowing that I would be able to be a vehicle or a vessel of his power in in all ways. Um, for a minute there though, it was definitely like I had planned when I was facing those felony charges, right? And I had planned once I copped the charges that I was going to celebrate. That was my plan. 74 days sober, I walk into the courtroom with my lawyer to try to plead down my felony charges because even if I had gotten felony charges, the state board wouldn't allow me to keep my nursing license. Um, and my lawyer's given a spiel and he's like, "Look, she's already going to meetings, she already has a sponsor, she's already in IOP for her addiction, like she's doing the work even though it hasn't been mandated she do so." And the judge looks at me and she's like, "Do you want to say anything?" And at this point, it wasn't just to change the narrative. It wasn't to just get this like thing off my back. I actually found that I had a new way of living that I felt filled. I felt purposeful. I felt like I wanted to stay. And I told her, I was like, "Look, I'm really sorry for everything that has happened, but I'm so thankful. I know if I wouldn't have gotten arrested, I would still be doing what I did." And she goes, "I'm a friend of Bill's too. And if I ever see your name cross my desk again, you'll never practice as a nurse." So yeah, like it was definitely a
Awesome.
blessing. Yeah, yeah.
That's wild that she was in recovery too, huh?
And she told me, like, you talk we talk so much about anonymity. I know there's a whole movement on like recovering out loud, and I love it, man. I'm here for it. The last few places I've worked in higher level of leadership, I have been unashamed of who I am. And that's kind of tricky when you're like executive or, junior executive leadership. Like there has been negative, especially in healthcare, negative connotation. The second you say I'm an alcoholic in recovery, watch out for that one. Like I haven't felt that though. That has not been my experience. So I think that that's a true testament on the shift of what external persons think about us, and I think that that's pretty cool. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know, I think it's I'm really, really excited about where I am and where we are as a fellowship, and like how we're able to do things that we would have never thought possible, right?
And absolutely, somebody a lot smarter than me once told me that our only job as a recovering alcoholic is to bring well, for me, it would be other men closer to God and like
Yeah,
help them form a relationship with a higher power,
yeah.
you know? And it seems like not only, I mean, were you able to keep your career, but you're also doing that job pretty well because I know a couple of well, I know one of your sponsees and she seems to be doing pretty good. And
She's
I
pretty
mean,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
Like honest, I've known her for 10 years, and this girl, man, the fire in her. Like I was such a mean, and I still kind of am. Not mean. Let me be real. I'm a pretty strict sponsor, right? You're gonna call me with the same problems over and over again. I'm gonna listen to you because I love you. But if you're looking for a solution from me, I'm gonna ask you two things. Did you pray about it? How free do you want to be? And that is like her least favorite response from me. And I purposely like I'll text it. How free do you want to be? And she's like, stop. But you talk about some serious grit, God, perseverance and like desire to be healed, to be whole. She's killing it, and I'm so proud of her. I love her to death.
And a lot of people forget a lot that the only requirement for membership is a desire,
Yeah,
What helps is open-mindedness, honesty, and willingness, but the only requirement is the desire.
yeah.
And I think as long as we all keep that desire, I think we're moving in a positive direction. But again, thank you so much for doing this today. You have an amazing story,
Thank
and I,
you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Is there anything that you wanna promote or anything that you've got going on in your life that you wanna let people know about?
I think I did shameless plug already, but I think that all that I want to promote or talk about is if somebody's new, and it feels like there's really no way up, and there's really like the that judgment of how do I get to that place in that space, don't stop. Right? Don't stop recovery. Don't stop doing the things that your sponsor's telling you. Try to be a little bit more coachable and teachable. Shut up, sit down, listen. That was hard for me, but like I didn't do anything extreme. I'm nothing special. The way that I started, the way that I got here does not set me in a qualification bracket that is so different from my fellows. And thank God for that, right? Like I saw people getting 10 years. I'm like, I'll never get that. And here I am. And now I get it. It's just one day at a time. That's it. That one moment at a time, if that's all you can. Just don't leave before that miracle happens. Because there is access to this too for you.
That is amazing. Again, thank you so much. And thank you for doing this. Thank you for everything you do for the recovery community and for being of service, a first responder for a while, and now you're helping other first responders and nurses, and that's fucking awesome. So thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, and I really appreciate you having this conversation with us today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. You have a great day.
You too. Bye.